Imagine a world where myths feel more real than facts, where Hollywood legends shape how we picture history, and where the truth is often stranger, grittier, and far more human. That's the story of the Wild West. But before we pull back the dusty curtain, here's the hook. Most of what you think you know about cowboys, outlaws, and gunslingers isn't true at all. And yet, those myths shaped America's identity, its movies, and even its politics. Stay with me, because once you see how the Wild West was built on half-truths and borrowed traditions, you'll never look at a cowboy hat the same way again. Welcome to Life Wild West, where we dive into the stories, legends, and hidden realities of frontier history. If you love uncovering the gap between myth and fact, hit that subscribe button now. Don't miss the ride. The Wild West is an alluring yet slippery subject. It feels recent enough to be familiar, yet far enough away to be shrouded in myth. The lines between reality and fantasy blur so much that even experts disagree. And at the center of this confusion, the cowboy. Now, let's be real. Actual cowboys, herded cows, that's it. Sunrise to sunset, dusty boots, sore backs, long days with cattle. But in popular culture, the cowboy morphed into something completely different. A gunslinger, a noble vigilante, a rugged lone wolf out to protect justice. Take McCree from the video game Overwatch, for example. He doesn't herd cows. He's a sharpshooting vigilante. Cool, yes. Accurate, not even close. Here's the twist. Nearly every real Western town had strict gun control laws. Yep, the Wild West was actually full of regulations designed to prevent chaos. Because, believe it or not, arming everyone usually caused more problems than it solved. Of course, there were famous lawmen, Wyatt Earp, Bass Reeves. Reeves alone made over 3,000 arrests, and his life reads like an action movie. But they were exceptions, not the rule. So if we want the real story, we need to rewind, way back. The cowboy tradition started in 17th and 18th century Central America. Spanish colonists, expert horsemen, brought cattle herding to the New World. Their descendants, the vaqueros, literally cowboys in Spanish, passed those traditions into what became Mexico. And since a third of modern America once belonged to Mexico, the West we picture today is deeply tied to Mexican and Native American culture. Think about it. Lassos, chaps, wide-brimmed hats, bandanas, all rooted in Mexican vaquero heritage. As American settlers pushed westward, they borrowed these traditions, sometimes mispronouncing vaqueros as buckaroos. Now, let's talk expansion. From the moment Europeans landed on the East Coast, people were looking west. But things really accelerated with three milestones: the Louisiana Purchase in 1803, the California Gold Rush in 1848, the explosion of railroads connecting coast to coast. Add in government subsidies for homesteads, and suddenly the Untamed West was a giant government-backed project. Far from being an anti-government frontier, the West was built with federal support, railroads, land grants, military forts. In fact, early estimates said it would take centuries to cross the continent. Instead, within just 100 years, the U.S. had settled a territory 10 times larger than the original colonies. That's Roman Empire levels of expansion in a single century. But here's the part most Western movies get wrong. Cowboys versus Indians. That old story paints settlers as noble heroes defending against savage attackers. But in reality, cowboys didn't fight Native Americans. The U.S. government did. Two brutal strategies defined the Indian Wars of the 1850s-70s: military campaigns, soldiers pushing west, fighting native tribes, destroying the bison. Bison were the lifeblood of many tribes' economies. Hunting and habitat loss reduced their numbers from 40 million to just a few hundred. Imagine the devastation. It wasn't just animals dying. It was culture, survival, identity. So, cowboys versus Indians? Wrong on two counts. Cowboys weren't involved, and the government wasn't facing equals. They had guns, railroads, and the brutal advantage of disease that had wiped out native populations a century earlier. It wasn't a fair fight. It was conquest. With the land secured, settlement followed railway lines, mining camps, and yes, brothels. Society in the West wasn't random chaos. It was structured around commerce and control. By comparison, colonizing the East Coast had taken Europeans almost 300 years. The West, done in 1/3 of that time. That's how powerful federal planning, railroads, and industrial expansion were. So, was the West really wild? Not so much. It was militarized, regulated, subsidized, and organized. The chaos came later, from mythmakers. Now, here's where it gets fun. The myths we all love started with larger-than-life individuals. Buffalo Bill, Annie Oakley, Billy the Kid, Butch Cassidy, Bass Reeves. They weren't just living people. They became characters, stars of Wild West shows that toured America and Europe. Buffalo Bill's shows combined sharpshooting, horse tricks, reenactments of battles. They sold out everywhere, and in doing so, they transformed the West from history into legend. Then came Hollywood. Filmmakers fled Thomas Edison's patent empire on the East Coast, set up shop in sunny California, and turned Westerns into box office gold. Movies like Stagecoach, 1939, made John Wayne a household name and cemented the Western as America's defining genre. On screen, railroads were built. Outlaws chased lawmen. Cowboys defended ranches. Exciting? Yes. Accurate? Not really, because Hollywood cowboys were almost always white, ignoring the reality that a quarter of real cowboys were black and countless others were Mexican, Native American, or Chinese immigrants. The frontier wasn't a solo act. It was multicultural, messy, and collaborative, but myth sells better than reality. Across the Atlantic, Italians reimagined the West with spaghetti westerns. Think Clint Eastwood in A Fistful of Dollars. Unlike American films, which at least pretended to show history, Italian westerns didn't care. They leaned into fantasy. Heroes were wandering gunmen, detached from politics, silent but deadly. Characters like Django barely spoke, but left trails of violence. No censorship, no sugarcoating. Hollywood made cowboys white. Italy made cowboys badasses. And between the two, the myth of the cowboy became global. So, to sum it all up, the real West was diverse, regulated, government-backed, and often brutal. The mythic West was wild, lawless, romantic, and cinematic. Both versions matter, but only one tells the truth. And as fun as Red Dead Redemption 2 or Clint Eastwood movies are, we need to remember, misrepresenting history while pretending it's authentic is dangerous. Enjoy the myth, but respect the truth, because as the saying goes, justice ain't gonna dispense itself. And if you enjoyed this journey through myth and reality, stick with us here at Life Wild West. There are so many more legends to uncover, so saddle up, hit subscribe, and ride with us through history's most misunderstood frontier.